door, please? Actually, no, you can leave it open. This is there. All right, good morning. We're here to announce the arrest and the situation with the shots that have been fired in our region over the past week. Today you'll hear from Chief Timothy Altamari. That's Chief Timothy Altamari of the Anne Arundel County Police Department, A-L-T-O-M-A-R-E, Timothy, common spelling. Also with us today is Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Mr. Steve Vogt. That's Steve, S-T-E-V-E, V-O-G-T, and he is right there. Special Agent in charge, Baltimore Field Office, FBI. Chief Mark McGaw, M-C-G-A-W of the Prince George's County Police Department. Deputy Chief Lee Lockman, that's L-A-C-H-M-A-N of the Howard County Police Department. Secretary of Public Safety and Corrections and Services, Mr. Stephen Moyer, M-O-Y-E-R. Our Anne Arundel County State's Attorney, Mr. Wes Adams, is also here, and Acting Major Herbert Hassenpusch, H-A-S-E-N-P-U-S-C-H, is the commander of our Special Services Bureau. Also in attendance are the officers who actually made this stop. They won't be speaking to the press today, but Officer Mason Ellis, M-A-S-O-N-E-L-L-I-S, and Corporal Matthew Hall. All right, we'll begin with some remarks from Chief Tim Altamari.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I think the flow here today is going to be, if you'll allow me, I'll say a few words, and then I'm going to turn it over to a couple of our guests today, and then we'll turn it back over to Lieutenant Smith, who will give you an itemized timeline and the details of the past few days, reaching back to about a week ago. And if you'll allow me to make an observation, as I look around the room today, I'm struck by the fact that most of us here were probably in some way, shape, or form aware of events 15 years ago, give or take, with the D.C. sniper case. And I think it's important to note that everyone up here puts the safety of the public at the top of their priorities in their daily life, and that I think that each of us took an oath to keep people safe, to keep our communities viable and as free from fear as we can. And we were faced in the past week, and particularly within the past 24 hours, with a situation that rapidly evolved from a single incident through having the potential that we were trying diligently to either confirm or deny to have 3 incidents that were linked, through the penultimate moments of this thing last night where we had 2 more incidents that kind of nailed the point home that we had linked incidents. And that as soon as we started to hear about the possibility of this stuff being linked, we kicked every effort we have into overdrive, to try to find out if in fact we did have a situation with multiple incidents with the same person involved. And in the space of probably 24 hours, that went from 1 incident to, like I said, 5 total incidents that we were with some certainty able to say were linked. During that time, I saw some of the best coordination, communication, teamwork, commitment from the agencies that you see up here behind you. When we started to have a maybe situation, we immediately started talking to our partners in Howard County, our surrounding jurisdictions, using the intelligence networks that we have to try to get confirmation of our maybe situation. And then last night, we had confirmation that we did have a linked incident. I think it's important to note at this point that we have 2 folks who were put in mortal fear of their life. And the good news is today that neither of those folks suffered a serious injury, physical injury, and that we have everybody who's been victimized by this situation, by this person, is alive and well. And I think that is in large measure due to all the things that I talked about from our partners in the region. We saw, as we discussed, in the space of hours, we saw 2 police departments mobilize and put what I can probably term is every physical asset we had. We brought it to bear on the situation. Both Howard County and Anne Arundel County moved officers from every corner of the county into the area that we were fearful might be affected by this situation. We had good cops being utilized by good supervisors who were being under the command and control of very good commanders. And the system worked. And today we're able to bring successful closure to this situation because of that. I think that it's a positive message that I get to close with today by saying that this situation, when everything is said and done and we've closed the book on the court case that the state's attorney's office is going to have to put together, is going to be a case study in good police work done by good street cops, as you see over here, done by a fantastic detective who's home getting some sleep right now, I think, who couldn't be with us today, named Jeff Golis, who is in our Western District Detective Unit, who truly, folks, this case would not have been linked before the penultimate moments of last night without his diligent work. And I want to tell you that this case study sends a message, I think, that reverberates with us, that this is the kind of good police work that police do every day all over this country. And I think it sends a message about our commitment to folks' safety. And I think it sends a message about our commitment and how seriously we take our jobs. And if I may, I'll close with that and say thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's obviously my pleasure to be here just for a few minutes to talk a little bit about the incident we had yesterday on the ICC and talk about the forensic examination that my firearms investigators worked all night to link these cases together forensically. Yesterday around 3 o'clock, we responded for a shooting on the ICC right at the old Gunpowder Road overpass. The incident involved 2 individuals, 2 males that were driving a work truck and had something hit their windshield, later identified as what were gunshots. One individual was hurt by the glass, transported to the hospital, and then released. At that time, all the agencies that you see here today came together, and we made a decision that all of the forensics evidence would go to Prince George's County, and our firearms examination unit would do all of the analysis. What I can tell you from that analysis is the following cases have been forensically linked to the weapon recovered from the suspect early this morning. February 24th, the incident at Arundel Mills Boulevard. Monday's incident at the mall in Columbia. Yesterday's incident on the ICC. And yesterday's incident at NSA. The gun that was used and recovered was a Bersa caliber .380 handgun, semi-automatic handgun. It was legally registered to the suspect that's been arrested in this case. And I'll stop there and take your questions in a minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Morey. I'm the Secretary for the Department of Public Safety and Corrections. Chief, I'd like to thank you. 15 years ago, I was a lieutenant colonel with the Maryland State Police during the D.C. Sniper, and law enforcement then pulled together and did a great job. I think many of you know I've only been back in this role for 6 weeks, but one thing that is for certain, I still have the relationships with law enforcement in the area. Members of the police department standing here with me, along with the FBI, call me at 1 o'clock in the morning for one specific reason. And I'm putting this out there because I'm very transparent, and I will always be transparent. The suspect in this case is a former employee of the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. He's a correctional officer. He worked for our department from January 2012 and resigned in May of 2014. There was nothing significant about his employment with the Department of Public Safety. He did resign, and I've had my staff vet that file, and there's nothing significant in that file. And thank you for being here.
Okay, that spelled Chief McGaw's name wrong. It is actually, I want to make sure we have the correct spelling. M-A-G-A-W. M-A-G-A-W, Chief McGaw. My apologies, Chief. And real quick, to walk you through how this event initially took place and how our investigation unfolded. The first incident occurred on February 24th at about 7:30 in the morning on Arundel Mills Boulevard. Many of you were out there for that event. We told you at that time that it was an unusual situation, and that's what it was. Our detectives were able to recover evidence from that scene, including surveillance video that we released days later. That surveillance video was widely circulated. Tips were received, but unfortunately at the time, none of the tips led to an identification of the suspect. On March 2nd, in the early morning hours of March 2nd, about 2:50 a.m., a call was received for shots fired at the Walmart in Laurel. That's right on the Prince George's County, Howard County, Anne Arundel County border. At that time, we had no real witnesses, no victims, and we once again did not have a suspect. Later surveillance video indicated that the same style vehicle was involved in that shooting as well. At that point, again, the coordination efforts started as we knew something was going on and was a little bit unusual. We later found out on the day of March 2nd that Howard County had an incident at approximately 4:50 in the morning at the AMC theaters where several shots were fired at the windows at the AMC theater there. Information was then distributed through our Maryland Coordination and Analyzation Center to get that memo out to law enforcement. Once again, through this entire ordeal, we had put the video of the suspect vehicle out for everybody to see, and tips, again, were coming in, but unfortunately didn't lead to the identification of the suspect. Yesterday afternoon, in the midst of an ice storm, mind you, we got the incident that occurred at the ICC. As soon as that happened, our detectives responded down there, and the coordination efforts began once again. And while they were still on scene investigating that, the incident occurred at the NSA building near National Business Parkway. Our officers have been deployed. Resources have been put out throughout Anne Arundel County and our neighboring jurisdictions in reference to this. And the officers were working last night when they saw a vehicle in the area that fit the description of our suspect vehicle. They put themselves, of course, in harm's way and made that traffic stop with this person who we don't know what the mindset is. I know everybody wants to know what a motive is. We're still investigating this case, and we're still trying to figure that out ourselves. We don't know exactly what the motive is behind this person taking these actions. But they noticed something was wrong, saw some evidence in plain view, were able to make the arrest there. And again, last night when we're urging everybody to stay off the streets because of the icy situation, these guys were all over Anne Arundel, Prince George's, and Howard County tracking down evidence to get this bag out off the street. And as the chief said, we're not talking about a death here. We're talking about some people who were put in fear and people who were victimized. But fortunately enough, within a week's time, we're able to say that this person is charged with these events in reference to this. We'll take a few questions. Understand this is still an active investigation. It was very important for us to get out in front and let the public know that this person is in custody. So understand that as we answer some of the questions.
Yeah, TJ, so some of these shots, like you look at the movie theater, way up high in the building, others directly into a car. You just said you can't talk about motive, but has he given any statement at all of what he was trying to do? Did you fear an escalation? Did you fear this was going to be something more like we saw 15 years ago?
Well, clearly he was continuing to do it until he got caught. And one of the things that we've said, I mean, he was hiding in plain sight. He's driving the same vehicle. He's caught on surveillance camera. And, you know, the vehicle was pretty widespread. Didn't appear to be hiding. It didn't appear to be something like we saw 15 years ago where they were lying in wait and trying to blend in. This guy has apparently some other issues going on that our detectives are continuing to follow up on to see exactly what's going on with him that led him down this path. But we're fortunate that we don't have to talk about what could have been.
Can you tell us why he was taken to the hospital?
We can't get into the medical reasons of why he's at the hospital, but he's under police guard.
Was he injured in the course of the arrest?
We're not at liberty because of HIPAA laws to talk about the reasons why he's in the hospital, but he is under police guard at the hospital.
Temperament likely got arrested.
He was arrested without incident.
TJ, what happened at the NSA? What exactly? Did bullets hit buildings? Did they hit, anybody or come near anybody or what?
No people were in direct harm's way. A building was struck, and that was a destruction to property type case.
Mr. Secretary, can you better describe his job duties? You characterize him as a correctional officer. Could you give us sort of a playback on his grade, what facilities he may have been in, any history you could share with us, please?
He was a correctional officer 1, had gone through our academy, was assigned to one of the medium facilities over in Jessup, and was, resigned, and there was nothing remarkable in his file.
Does the handgun that was recovered have any link at all to his state work of any kind, as far as you know?
Not that I know of.
Is the car his? The town car? A neighbor said they'd never seen that kind of car before at the house.
We don't have the answer to that right in front of us right now. We'll try to find that out. But it was the same vehicle that he was operating in these incidents. And just to clear up also some evidentiary stuff, we have either ballistics or the vehicle sighting at each one of these incidents that intertwine these incidents that occurred. And the police work, again, we don't want to sound like we're sitting here tooting our own horns, but seriously, the work that these guys did, seriously, was unbelievable because they're springing into action. I mean, we saw vehicles off the road in the ice storm yesterday, but the detectives, the sergeants, the commanders, they were up all night. I mean, we were hoping that we wrapped this up before the snowstorm tomorrow, obviously, but people working through the night, 24 hours, literally, trying to track down who this person was. So,
can you describe how you got from? At what point was the vehicle put under surveillance?
The vehicle was not under surveillance.
Ever? You weren't sitting keeping an eye on it.
The vehicle was not under surveillance.
So
We
these
deployed.
guys last night, were they, going along helping someone pull out of a ditch and they saw,
No.
looks like that car?
We deployed additional resources throughout Anne Arundel County. These were 2 officers. They work in Southern District. They're not at West. That's Western District where this occurred. They were supplemental officers working the area. We put the BOLO out to all of law enforcement. This is the vehicle that we're looking for. They saw a vehicle that fit that description. They pulled that vehicle over, and they got the bad guy.
How'd the apprehension go? Was he
Arrested without incident. Yep.
Does he have any history of violence?
I'm not privileged to his criminal record at this point. And again, he was a former correctional officer, so probably a clear background, but I'm not privileged to that.
It appears he was going through a divorce.
I'm not
Cooperating with police?
He's been cooperative.
Does he have a lawyer?
Not sure.
Was the gun in the car?
Yes.
Are all of the victims considered random, or were there any of them specific targets?
Random. This was random people, random incidents.
Can you talk about the bullet? Was the weapon loaded?
I don't know all of that right now. No, I don't know the answer to that.
Can you talk about the ballistics? You say the ballistics have linked 4 incidents, but we know we have 5 shootings. What was done to try and match the ballistics to that one incident that we know is not ballistically tied? Were we just not able to get a match?
Yeah, we don't have ballistic evidence, but we do have video surveillance evidence at that location. So,
Who among you is can answer the question? This was a handgun. Obviously, Muhammad and Malvo were using an AR-15 or, Bushmaster, whatever it was, but it was obviously a high-powered rifle, sniper weapon. A handgun's not easy to use to shoot a target or shoot at something from a distance. So, what does that suggest?
We can speculate for days. We have not gotten to the mind of the suspect. And again, we're fortunate we're not talking about death here. No one died as a result. Buildings were fired upon. So that just takes you into just a little peek inside the mindset of this individual, that buildings were shot at. So we don't know exactly what the mindset was of this individual. But we are continuing to follow up. Mind you, we're hours into this arrest, and we wanted to get out and get the community this information because we're the same people that dealt with the DC sniper not long ago.
Were the shots fired from inside the car or from outside the car?
And we know at least in a couple of incidents it was from inside the vehicle. The Arundel Mills Boulevard incident was inside the vehicle.
And then on the ICC, was that outside the car? I've seen reports that it was from the woods.
That was outside of the vehicle.
TJ, the building at NSA, that's not a part of the main campus, was it? That was the National Business
Right.
Parkway, which is accessible by vehicle, correct? So that may answer why he could shot him with a handgun versus a high-powered rifle.
Right.
So,
Well,
is that correct?
yeah, it wasn't I want to make sure I'm correct, it wasn't that main NSA building that we're used to seeing in movies and all. It was some of the other buildings associated for National Business Parkway.
Has he made any statements at all?
We're not going to get into any of the investigatory statements that have been made by the suspect. We're not going to get into those.
But can you say that he has said something?
Our detectives have interviewed him and will continue to interview him, but we're not going to get into the specifics of any information we've gathered from him. But we will say, and I think the chief mentioned this earlier, we don't have any concern or belief that this is related to any type of terrorism. This is a situation that we're all standing up here fortunate that we're not having to go to anybody's house and give a death notification. He's off the street and will be in custody.
TJ, was there a reason of why the Costco? I mean, was he sleeping in his car? Did you have anything like that? And could you talk a little bit about deployments last night? I know you already addressed that a little bit. For instance, I think we're under the impression there may have been some special operations guys deployed and on standby up there near Arundel Mills. Tell us about that.
We had officers from different positions, different units, all deployed for the purpose of catching this bad guy, all over the county. When you hear on the radio that you have a person that fits this description or a vehicle that fits this description pulled over, more officers head to that area. So why the Costco? We don't have any idea. We don't know what his relationship to Anne Arundel County is, what brought him back over here. We don't know the answer to that at this particular time. But we had deployed resources throughout the county, not just Arundel Mills, not just Laurel, it was throughout the county. But of course, we knew that an incident had occurred there, so we had heightened presence over there.
Is there any evidence he was sort of living in his car the way Malvo and...
No, we don't believe so. We don't believe he was living out of his vehicle. All right,
Has he had any visitors in the hospital?
I'm sorry.
Has he had any visitors in the hospital?
No, he's under police guard and he's in police custody at this time.
Anything turn up in the search warrant? Any additional weaponry or anything like that with the search?
We're not going to be able to get into the ongoing portion of that investigation.
You said
Last
that he
question.
resigned in 2014 from the Department
Mr.
of
Moore.
Corrections. Do we have an idea of what he was doing since then? Has he been working?
At this point in time, we do not know. We know he resigned in May of 2014.
And the vehicle was, in fact, registered to the suspect. The vehicle was registered to the suspect.
Thank you for
All
coming,
right,
ladies.
thank you all for coming. The emails have been sent out to your news desk with the press releases. And at the time that we get a mugshot, we will email that out. So we'll get that out as soon as we possibly can. All right.